today's Thursday. Thursdays we put aside for our Sister to Sister series on IG. So pretty much if you don't know what it is, this series is just about having different women come on and just share their story, share, a little bit about how they came to Christ, the different struggles that they went through, the way God moved in their life and where they are now, and a little bit about what they're doing for the kingdom. So for this Thursday, I actually don't have a special guest. So what we're going to do is the first episode, I actually shared my story, but for some reason that video got deleted and I don't have it no more. The enemy thought that once it was deleted, that was it. It wasn't going to be posted out there. But so pretty much today, I'm going to take the time to just retell my story. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my story, how I came to Christ, and then a little bit about the ministry, and pretty much what I'm doing now, and just how God has moved and how God has prevailed, the Sisterhood ministry to me. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing today. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to drop a comment, or drop your questions in the comment section, or you can even DM me. So a little bit about me. Hi guys, I'm Renee Beltran, soon to be Mrs. Jermaine Ellis. Can't wait, one more year. But anyways, so a little bit about my story. I found Christ in 2014, because I was actually about 4 or 5 months pregnant. So a little bit about how I found Christ. In that time, I was living in Maryland, but before that, I was living in Las Vegas, which I actually am back in Las Vegas now. Anyways, so I was living in Vegas, but then at that time, pretty much my mom and my stepdad, they just, wanted to live the party life and, drink, do drugs, stuff like that. And so because of those things, we ended up losing our home. Our family got separated. Everybody had to go their own ways. My mom and her, our stepdad, they pretty much, in a sense, abandoned us kids. At that time, I was 17. My sister was 16. I think my brother was like 8 or something. And then my youngest sister was like 3-ish, I believe. And so we all had to go live different places. My two sisters, they went to Cali to go live with family. My brother stayed with his friends here in Vegas. And then I was actually my last year in high school, and after I graduated high school, I moved to Maryland to go live with an aunt of mine and my cousin and her new husband, their family. So that's actually how I ended up getting to Maryland. At first, I was kind of skeptical about going out there, but then I just felt like this tug for me to go. So I ended up going. And hold on. Okay. So I just felt this tug to go. So I ended up deciding to go. But when I went there, and because of like all the stuff that I was going through, pretty much being separated from my family, the depression I had, and plus the things that I went through like as a kid, I was pretty much raised by my grandma, and then she died, and I was kind of like, she was like the glue to our family. And then so having her gone, and just always feeling like I didn't belong, feeling unloved, just feeling like, nobody really cared or loved me. So those things just kind of one thing after another kind of just built, and it just built a lot of depression, and it just built I was this girl that I wasn't really myself. I was just a girl that just carried this depression and this hurt and this pain, but I didn't really show other people or tell people about the pain and the hurt I had. I kind of in a sense just was a different type of person. I had a bunch of piercings, I wanted a whole bunch of tattoos, I was looking for attention in boys. But because of all of my actions, my aunt and her husband that I was living with when I moved out to Maryland, they didn't see a little girl that was hurt. Well, pretty much a young girl, actually, because I was 17, 18. they didn't see a young girl that was hurt. They just saw a girl acting out. And so because of that, they end up kicking me out. They gave me my choices. They told me either you can stay in Maryland and go find somewhere else to live, or, you go back to Nevada and we'll just pay for your ticket. So at that time when they gave me those options, I think I was only living with them. I moved out there August, and then it was like January the following year is when they gave me these choices. So I was only with them for like a couple months. But at that time, I was part-time. No, I was going to school, working part-time, and I was babysitting. And so the lady that I was babysitting for, she was like, I don't want you to go. She kind of knew a little bit about my backstory and stuff. And so she was really there, and she was like really encouraging, and she was just like, I don't really want you to go. I feel like this is where, you need to be and where you should be. And so she was like, if you need anything, I'll be here to help you. She gave me more, babysitting jobs, to make more income. And then she also helped me find a room to rent. So, so I ended up staying in Maryland, and I found a room to rent. I stayed, and she ended up helping me, like, with toiletries, towels, shampoo, all that kind of stuff, like pillows, blankets. Like, she helped me, like, with a whole bunch of stuff, like, on top of that, like, give me extra money to babysit and stuff like that. So, like, she was a really nice lady, and, it was kind of because of her that I ended up staying, because otherwise I was going to move right back. And so I stayed, but then things started becoming hard, just financially, like taking care of myself. And so at that time, I ended up meeting somebody, and we started dating. And because we both were struggling financially, we decided that it would be good if, like, we moved in together. So mind you, we were only dating for like 2 weeks when we, like, actually moved in with each other. So I didn't really know anything about him. He moved in this shared room, so nobody actually knew that he was living there, because it was just a room that I was renting inside somebody's house, and, like, that person was renting all the rooms in that house. And so he ended up staying, but then at that time, like, he was Christian, like, he believed in God, he would pray and stuff, so that was kind of, like, new for me. I didn't really, like, know, like, I didn't really know somebody that prayed all the time, or that believed in God, like, because I didn't grow up in the church. Like, I have families that go to church and stuff like that, but I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't really know, the name Jesus. And so it was new for me. And then I remember one day, we were just, like, making a list of goals, and he said that this list of goals would just be called our faith list, because if we had enough faith, anything's possible and we could achieve these goals. So I was like, oh, okay, that sounds good. So so we started off writing our faith list, and I just remember writing, and the first thing I wrote on this list was get closer to God. I didn't know what this meant. I didn't know why I was writing. I didn't even know that I was writing it to begin with. My hand was moving, the pen was moving, and I didn't even know what I was writing. And of course I wrote other goals after it, but it was just like, at that time it was kind of weird, like, why do I want that, or what does this mean, what does that look like, so fast forward, I think about 2 years later, nothing actually happened. I didn't accomplish anything. I didn't do anything to accomplish any of these goals. There was just this list hanging on the wall for 2 years of goals that I wanted to achieve. And it wasn't until I got pregnant with my son when, something inside of me, I guess in a sense you could say, the Holy Spirit came over me, and I was reminded of my first goal, get closer to God. And so I'm like, okay, I want this. I really want to do something about this. And I was praying without realizing that I was praying, because I was just like, okay, I really want to do this, but I don't know. Just like, please just show me, like, what this means, or how do I go about this? And I'm just like, back then, like, I'm just saying this out loud, but, like, in a sense, really, I was praying to God. asking God to show me and reveal to me, you know, what this meant, and how do I achieve this goal? How do I get closer to you? How do I know you? How do I find you? You know, but like, I didn't know, like, I was praying. So when I finally, you know, decided I really wanted to go after this, like, God started moving. Like, God started putting people in my life, you know, to reveal himself to me. So yeah, there was two people. So one was a male at a job that I was working at, and at that time when I was dating that person, even though when I first met him, he was, you know, about praying and, you know, about God and going to church and stuff like that, the relationship became very abusive. He was very controlling. He did end up, in a sense, turning away from God and then not believing in him anymore. I don't know if he still does. You know, I pray that he does find God again. But he ended up turning away from God, and the relationship became very controlling, very abusive. It started off with name calling and, you know, like controlling, like the type of things I would say, the type of things I would wear. Like if I wore something that showed a little bit too much and he wasn't around, like, I was in trouble. Like if I was walking to the bus stop and a male like said hi to me, I was in trouble. So because of that, and I didn't want to get in trouble, and the fact that I'm working this job and the person that I keep getting partnered up is a male, I would be intentionally rude to this person. I would be, you know, I would just give him the side eye. I would just look him up and down. Like, I would have attitude. I would just be plain out mean to him. And this person was a man of God. This person was somebody that had given their life to God, had believed in God, and was following God. And so, but I didn't care. All I cared was when I go home, I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to be yelled at. You know, I didn't want to be put down. And so I would intentionally be rude and mean to him. And he ended up telling me, like, later on that, like, oh yeah, he couldn't stand me. But because now, like, we became friends later on. But then he ended up telling me that, like, at that time when I was being rude and mean to him, that, you know, he couldn't stand me. But then God had spoke to him and said, that's my daughter, pretty much. And so that person had ended up doing whatever they could to try to spark a conversation with me, you know, to try to talk to me and try to kind of bring God into the conversation. And it kind of took a little while, but then the ice was broken and we started talking. And then eventually I shared with that person, oh yeah, I have a goal of getting closer to God, but I don't know what that means or what it looks like. I just know that I want to do it. So then that person said, you know what, I have a gift for you. So 2 weeks later, that person ends up getting me my first study Bible. So I was like so excited. Like, this is my first Bible. Like, okay, I'm like, okay, maybe this is a step, you know. So I ended up taking that Bible home, and I ended up like reading it, like, you know, back to back, like just opening it and just cracking it open and just reading it and just digging in. Like, I was like, if I was not at work cleaning houses, I was reading my Bible like 24/7. Like, I was not doing anything else. So while all that was going on, at the same time, I was, you know, going to community college, and a friend, like, I had like this group of friends that I was with, and like there was this girl that was part of the group, but like me and her never weren't really friends. Like, we just hanged out with the same type of people, so we always saw each other when we all hanged out, but like me and her just never really talked or never really got to know each other. But then until one day we were all at the mall, and then our group of friends were like, no, you two are going to become friends. Like, we all hang out with each other. Like, you know, it doesn't make sense that you two like aren't talking or aren't, like, you know, getting to know each other. So our group of friends pretty much made me and her like walk the mall and like talk to each other. Turns out she grew up in a Christian home, and, you know, so me and her became really good friends, and we're still friends. Like, today, like, that's my sister. And so became really good friends. And then so fast forward, as I'm like reading the Bible, whenever I had questions or whatever, I would always call her, text her, like, hey, like, what does this mean? And then I started asking her, like, hey, is it okay if I go to church with you and your family? So her and family started picking me up for church. They would invite me to Bible studies. They would just get like help, like they would just include me in a lot of things, you know, like that had to do with like going to church and Bible studies and stuff like that. So I just started doing that. And then as I was reading the Bible and just reading God's word, it wasn't until I got to Joseph's story, and I was reading Joseph's story and just reading his story and him talking about how his family abandoned him, and his family, like, you know, all the bad things that his family has done and what he went through, and, you know, how God used that for his good and for his glory. And it was like literally that moment when I remember I was like in the bed reading it, and it was that moment that I broke down in tears. I was just crying, and I really like confessed, like, God, like I want you and I invite you into my life. I confess that Jesus is Lord, that Jesus saved us. Like, I fully committed to loving and choosing God and believing, you know, that his son died for my sins, and I fully had let go of the pain and the hurt. So when that had happened, I started praying for my mom. You know, I started praying for my family, for God to move in our situation, for God to bring us closer, you know, for God to, you know, bring her, you know, closer to him, for her to find him. Because when all that had happened, so from the time that I left, that my mom had left us, to the time that, you know, right before I found Christ, like, I haven't spoke to her. So it was maybe, I want to say, a good, I don't know, like maybe 4 years, 12. Yeah, like a good 4 years that I didn't talk to her, have any type of communication with her, anything like that. And so, yeah, that was the moment that I decided I wanted to follow Jesus and give my life to him. But then I feel like that was the moment that I like decided I wanted Christ in my life. But I feel like the moment I actually truly started actually following Christ, I feel like there's two different things. Like, you can, one, accept Christ into your life and accept that you believe that his son had died for you. But then there's, you know, you also like deciding and making a decision to choose to follow him. So like those are like two different stories I had. So me deciding to follow him was when I decided to fast for the first time. I actually had just shared this story on my sister Charlie's live. We were talking about fasting, and so, excuse me, I was still in that relationship, this toxic, bad relationship, and I was just getting tired of it. I was getting tired of the abuse. I was getting tired of the name calling. I was getting tired of being put down. I was just, I didn't want to do it anymore. And so was telling that same coworker that had given me the Bible, I was telling him a little bit about, you know, what was going on. I didn't tell him too much information. I just told him a little bit, because I wasn't really telling people, like, you know, about the pushing around and, you know, the bruises I would have and stuff like that. And so when I was telling him, you know, like, what should I do? I don't know what to do. He was like, well, have you prayed and fasted? And I was like, well, I prayed, but I don't know what's fasting. So what is that? And so he had shared a little information about what fasting was and like a little bit of how to do it. So I was like, oh, okay. And I just knew in my spirit, like, it was something I had to do. So this was actually a whole year after I'd given my life to Christ, because I was like 4 months pregnant, and then I worked all the way up until I was 8.5 months, and then I had quit to have my son, and then I didn't go back till after my son had already turned 1. So yeah, so it was like a whole like year and some change when I actually went back. And then this second thing had happened when I fasted. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna fast. And like, this was like literally the day after Thanksgiving, like when you have all this yummy food and everything. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna fast. Like, I didn't hesitate. I just knew like this was something I needed to do. So I fasted. In this fast, I started off being very selfish and just fasting and praying for God to change him, for God to, reveal himself to him, for God to change his ways, for us to become, an equally yoked couple, for us to be a couple that, went to church together. Like, that's kind of like the stuff that I was praying about. And it wasn't until like the third day, when like the Holy Spirit was just like, like, why, like, what are you praying for? Like, what are those prayers for? Like, and like I realized, okay, like I'm being selfish. Like, so I end up changing like my prayers, like from, like, God, what, instead of saying, God, like, will you change him? I was like, God, like, is this even a man that you have for me? Like, God, like, do you even want me to be with him? Like, and if you don't, like, I'll pack up my things and I'll walk away and leave. Like, I'll choose you over him. Like, I'll love you over him, and I'm not going to let him become an idol. Like, whatever it is that you have for me, I will be okay with, and I will choose that, and I will go with what you have for me versus what I think of what I want for myself. And so in that moment, that was like the first time I heard God speak to me, and it was just like this voice that I've never heard, like this strong but sensitive voice. And God spoke, and he said, I will bless you. No, sorry. He said, you can stay with this man, but I'll never bless you. And when he said that, that's when it hit me, and I knew that this wasn't the man that God had for me. And so I was like, hey, Lord, if you want me to leave, I'll leave. And so we end up, me and him actually end up getting into a huge fight that night, because he thought for some reason that coworker, that I was going to sneak off and run away with him, and that I was going to have a whole relationship with him and stuff like that. I'm like, you're crazy. Like, no, that's just a friendship. Mind you, this person's like twice my age, and, but to him, like, all he saw was, oh, this is the male. And like, I feel like he just had a lot of insecurities about himself that he took it out on me, and we got into a huge fight. And, I was laying in bed, and I was like laying like on my stomach, so my back, and my butt area was showing. So when he came home, he was so mad that he swung, but when he swung, he hit me, my buttocks area. And like, I could not sit for like a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. Like, my whole butt area was like sore and sensitive. Like, I couldn't sit because that's how hard he had to punch me. And that was the thing, like, he would, do those type of things, or like grab me and throw me in, like, but to him that wasn't abuse, or like, because he wasn't punching me in my face, or, doing stuff like that, that it was different. It wasn't abuse. And when he did that, I was like, that was kind of like my last straw. Like, it was just like, in a sense, it was like God showing me, like, if I stayed, like, that's what I would continue to live with. And I was just like, no, like, I don't want this. And so that's when I told him that I was leaving. And of course he begged and said that he would change and he wouldn't, ever do it again. But that's what they say. And so, but I decided I was going to leave. But even though God had gave me my answer, I didn't end my fast. I continued my fast, because I knew that what God was calling me and telling me to do, I wasn't going to be able to do it on my own strength alone, that I needed to rely on God. Because there has been times when I said I was done and I would leave, and I never would. So I relied on God, to get me out of the relationship. And when I left, it was heartbreaking, because, I felt like I was tearing my family apart. Everything that we owned, he pretty much took. All the money we had in the account, he took. The car that we had just bought, he took. The apartment that we were staying in, he took. Even our son, our 1-year-old son, I had to leave him behind. And leaving my son was the hardest. Like, I didn't really care less about the car or the money. It was just more so like leaving my son behind. Me being a first-time mom, leaving him behind was like so hard for me. But I just knew that God was with me. I knew that God had promises for me. I knew that God had blessings, for me, and I wanted to receive those blessings. And I knew that God was in control. And I know God has made promises, to me that he was going to keep. And so I went through it. And so I ended up fasting for 3.5 weeks. and that was my first time ever fasting. And I feel like in that fast, like God really built me and made me stronger in my faith. And it was really in that fast that I decided to be obedient for the first time and actually follow Christ versus just choosing to believe in him. And what ended up happening because of my obedience, when I left him, I was staying with a friend for a couple months, for like 2-3 months. I think I was staying with her, and God ended up opening doors. I ended up getting my first apartment, and at this time I had no credit, I had no money, I didn't make 3 times the income, to cover rent. I didn't have anything. Like, I had nothing to offer. And the complex was just like, here's your keys, you can move in this day. And I didn't have no furniture. Like I said, I had no money, so I had no money to furnish the place. But then yet God opened doors. And one of the ladies that I was one of the ladies that I was cleaning her houses, I didn't tell her that I was in need. I didn't tell her that I needed anything. I didn't tell her that I was getting a new apartment. She didn't know anything about my situation. She just comes to me and she was like, do you need furniture? And then that's when I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, I do. I actually do. And then, so my whole entire apartment was furnished. I think the only things that I actually paid for was like a microwave and a few pots and pans. Everything else was given to me, from my sofa to my table to my desk to my bed, mattresses. Everything was given to me. I didn't go without at all. And not only did God give me an apartment and furnish it, but then I was able to get my son full time. But then not only that, God used that situation to do something even greater, and which that was that he actually ended up moving my mom out there. So like I was telling you from the beginning, I left, Nevada because of the fact of the choices that my mom had made, and her choosing the party lifestyle and drugs and stuff, that God ended up bringing her out there to live with me, and she got clean. And then I think 6 months later, me and her ended up getting baptized, and she gave her life to Christ. Sorry, I got a phone call. So she ended up giving her life to Christ. And like look at God. Like, just from one simple thing of being obedient, how many things God has done, to just, showing, his promises and keeping his promises, and then using that for his good and for his glory. So that's a little bit about my testimony. Let's see. After that, me and my mom, we lived together in Maryland for about 2-3 years. We recently just moved back from Maryland. Back to Nevada. So we're back here in Nevada, now with my sister and my brother. There's actually only one sister left that, needs to come back to join the family. But I know God is still in the situation, and God is still in control, and that, she's going to come back in his time, because he has already spoken and has already said that she will come back. So I'm believing and trusting in his promises. So after I gave my life to Christ, I started a women's ministry. So I started off calling it as SOG ministry, which was Sisterhood of God ministry, but now it's changed to just the Sisterhood ministry. So a little bit about that. That was like another fasting experience. And then like even in that fast, once again, like I was praying and fasting for selfish reasons. Like you would think I would get it after the first time, right? But no, like I didn't. It was, again, I was like fasting for selfish reasons. I was fasting because I wanted God to open doors for me to start an in-home daycare, because I was tired of working at the cleaning job. I was tired of, cleaning, and I was tired of, low income and stuff. So I was just like, I want something that's going to make me good money. I want something where I have time with my son and I can be around him. And then I was just like, oh, daycare. So I was like fasting and praying, for that. And then I was like, I think it was like the fourth day or something like that. I'm just like, why am I not hearing anything from God? Like, I haven't heard anything. Like, God hasn't done anything. And then I was like cleaning a shower, and as I'm cleaning, I'm like listening to Tony Evans. And Tony Evans, he was like talking about prayer and the power of it, and how sometimes like we're just all talk and we don't listen, and then how sometimes we don't take the time to ask God, what are your plans? What are you planning up there? What do you have going on? Instead, we're just like, okay, God, this is what I have planned. God, this is what I want to do, and then can you open doors for me to do it? This is what I have planned. And that was pretty much what I was doing. I was telling God my plans and not even asking him what was his plan. I wasn't even asking him, okay, God, how can I advance your kingdom? God, how can I be part of your will? And, I wasn't asking those type of questions. And then that's when it hit me. And like, I just like broke down. I started crying, and like, I was repenting, like, God, I'm sorry. God, I didn't know, like, this is what I was doing. I didn't realize it, but like, can you forgive me? And then I started praying, like, God, what can I do for you? Like, what do you have planned for me? Like, what is my purpose? Why did you create me? And I just started praying that. And then in that, I was in my kitchen, I was praying, and that's when God had spoke to me, and the Holy Spirit came over me and was just like, my daughters are not being heard. I want you to go and tell their story. And that was the beginning of it. That's where, the Sisterhood ministry started, was just digging into the Word of God and getting, the stories of the women in the Bible and telling their story, telling what we can learn from them, how God moved in their life and how powerful they are, and what we can learn from them to become kingdom women for ourselves. And so I started doing events and stuff. Oh, and mind you, when all this fast was going, like when that whole fast was going on, like this is another thing, like how God was moving. Like I was so busy with trying to, do what I had planned, that I ended up going, back to community college to start classes, for child development and stuff. But this time I was paying for the classes out of my own pocket, right? And so I still owed money because I was paying monthly, every month until like the payment, were done and finished. And so I ended up just leaving the class and, just walking out like, okay, this, I'm like only taking these classes for selfish reasons. So I walked away. And then when I finally did decide to do what God had told me to do, and when God did reveal what he had for me, I went back on the school's website to log in to see how many more payments I had and stuff like that. And when I went to go check, it said there was no payments, there was no balance. I didn't owe anything. That there was nothing that I even owed. That like it literally looked as if I didn't take no classes, and that there was no money that I even owed the school. Sorry, it's getting dark in here, so I'm gonna turn on the light. There we go. Yeah, so like God had pretty much taken care of the bill, or in a sense there was no bill at all, but I knew it was God. So anyways, so I started off by just digging into the women's lives and telling their story, rewriting their story as if they're sharing their testimony from their perspective and who they are and what they went through. And then I started off doing like lady night events, and I would share these testimonies and kind of just bring a bunch of girlfriends together to pray with, have a good time, laugh and cry, whatever it was. And that was the beginning. That's how we got started. And so actually, me writing the testimony actually ended up turning into a book series. So I actually have volume 1. This is my first book. It's kind of like scratched up because this is like my copy and it's like old. But this is like, it was all signed from everybody that came to the book signing. So this is actually volume 1 of her story. And this is like the beginning of like, the Sisterhood ministry. And it's just, it's pretty much just about the women in the Bible and just, digging into their story, having them share their lives from their perspective, because when God revealed this to me, he was literally telling me that his daughters are not being heard, that his daughters also have power. Because whenever you go to church, you always hear the stories of the men. Like, you always hear stories about Abraham, Moses. But there's so many powerful women that God is using as well to advance his kingdom, and we need to be heard. And so this is what, the sisterhood, started to become, about just letting women, to be heard and to share their testimony and what God is doing in their life. And and then so from there we started doing this, sister to sister series, and that's pretty much what this is, just having different women come on and share, their testimony and just how God has moved in their life. We do have some new exciting things that we are going to be bringing to the sisterhood. I'm working on a whole entire website, where on the website I'll have, the sister to sister series on there. You can purchase my book. We'll have t-shirts made, and also as well, you can log on. Like, there's like a little login, and then there's like a group chat where you other women can come together, and if you're a member of the chat, you can pretty much put your prayer requests. You can get information. You can get Bible reading tips, or like whatever it is. It's just pretty much just like an online community, and we'll have that like on the website as well. So we're working on that, and they'll be launched pretty soon. But yeah, so that's a little bit about my story and how I came to Christ, and like what I'm doing now with the ministry. I know that God has more in store, and I just want to say, oh, not only that, like, then God had me speaking at events and stuff. Oh my goodness, I was so nervous, like, going to my first event, but God opened doors for me to go to events and like speak to other women and like share these testimonies. Like there's just so much power in a testimony, whether it's an actual, like, or a person like me, you, or anybody else, like coming on here and sharing their testimony, or even like the women in the Bible. Like, testimonies are so powerful. Like, for me, like, it's so powerful because like you're showing, like, you're telling somebody like who Christ is to you, without just throwing Christ like on them. Because I know a lot of people, they don't come to God because they're just like, oh, I don't like those, that's people that are just like, oh, Jesus this, Jesus that, Jesus that, Jesus this. And which is like, that's fine. Like, everybody, like, finds God in their own way. And so I know a lot of people, that don't know God, they don't like it, in a sense, they run away when you are just always coming to them about, about God, or throwing scripture in their face that they don't really know, and so, or they'll get intimidated in a sense. So that's why there's so much power in a testimony, because when you share a testimony, you're sharing a personal experience that you had with God. And then, especially if that person is going through the same thing that you have went through, and you have shared how God had got you out of that situation, they'll look at it a little different and not feel like you're, in a sense, attacking them. And like, because even for myself, I had a lot of women that didn't even believe in God, and that will come to me and they'll want to hear my testimony of how I fasted and how I got out of a toxic relationship, but yet they didn't believe in God, and then, because of me speaking and me telling them my testimony, how God moved in that situation, they have given their life to Him, or, and then they have tried the fasting for themselves, and then God ended up God ended up revealing Himself in those situations for those people, and then they end up bringing themselves to Him, So there's just so much power in a testimony. So that's a little bit about what we're doing, and so if you guys have any questions, just let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed this time. The enemy thought he was going to try to get rid of this video, but that's why I had to come back on here and redo it. And even if, like, no matter how many times, like, the enemy will try to get in the way of things, or try to delete something that you had worked on for the kingdom, that's okay. That's okay. I even tell you, when I was first writing this book, I was writing it, right? My computer crashed, and everything that I had written was gone. It was erased. I had like two whole chapters, or about three whole chapters written, and everything that I wrote was gone. It was it was it. Like, I had nothing. In that moment, I felt like, I'm done. Like, how am I going to remember what I wrote? I don't even remember. Like, how am I going to rewrite this? I don't have nothing saved. But if it's something that's for the kingdom, and if this is something that God has called you to do, then God will reveal every single word. God will reveal every single thing that you need to succeed in what he has called you to do for the kingdom. So even with this video, even though it got deleted, even though I don't have it no more, even though it's not up no more, I'm still going to redo it and post it for the kingdom. I'm going to do whatever I can to put out there what God has called me to do. And so I want to encourage you as well. If there's something that, God has called you to do for the kingdom, and you're scared, or, the information that you have put together got deleted or is gone, or you worked so hard on a project and, that project got destroyed, keep on going, keep on pushing. At the end of the day, this is God's ministry, and you are just called to be a part of that ministry. And whatever God has called you to do, he will provide. He will provide the tools. He'll provide everything that you need. All you have to do is trust and believe in him. Trust and believe that he will provide. Trust and believe that he will give you all the resources. Trust and believe that he'll give you all the tools that you need. A good friend of mine had once said that God is the best business partner that you can ever have. And he truly is. He's the best business partner that you can ever have. So if you feel like you're stuck, rely on your business partner. If you feel like you don't have enough income to provide for for your ministry or for your business, go to God, because he is your business partner. If you feel like you are missing certain tools, go to God. He is your business partner. No matter what, always go to God, because he is your business partner in everything that you do. So I just hope that this testimony has blessed you. I just pray that with this, that you guys are just blessed, with the glory of God, that you guys learn, what it means to become a kingdom woman, that you guys grow in your faith, that you grow stronger in your relationship with God. The whole purpose of all this is just to build you up and to encourage you. So I just pray that you are encouraged by this video, and that God just continues to pour into you and to use you, for the glory and the advancement of the kingdom. So I just thank you guys all for tuning in, for listening. And if you guys have any more questions about, my personal life, the testimonies that I have, things that I have gone through, or even questions about the Sisterhood ministry, please don't be afraid to DM me. I will DM you back, and we'll have a whole conversation about whatever it is that you have to ask. And even if you want to come on here and share your testimony and share what God has done in your life, please DM me. Please DM me. And just let me know, like, hey sis, I would really love to be part of the Sister to Sister series. When can I share my story? And we'll get you glued in for a date, and we'll go from there. So I just want to thank you guys, and of course all the glory to God. Bye. Love you guys.